Yo, what's good, y'all? It's your boy Theslykrow creeping in with another video. And it's been a minute since we did another review, but here we are in 2025, where the year is just absolutely stacked with amazing video game releases. You know, we just had Monster Hunter Wilds, and now we're at Assassin's Creed Shadows, which, you know, in my opinion, I think this is the showpiece for this current generation. Like, the graphics are just, you know, it's just absolutely amazing to see. So before we go into this review, I just want to give you guys a brief rundown of my gaming history. You know, if y'all don't know, I'm a huge buff for stealth action games. You know, I was heavy into a few Splinter Cells back in the day. You know, I really liked Dishonored 1 and 2, as well as I did play AC 1 to 3. I briefly touched on Brotherhood, but you know, I didn't get too deep into that one. But yeah, you know, overall, like, I'm a huge stealth buff, and you know, I think Arcane just did an awesome job with the Dishonored franchise. And you know, of course, Assassin's Creed 2 and 3 are just my absolute favorites when it came to, you know, the overall mission and the you know, the level design of those games, which is absolutely peak in my opinion. So here we are with another RPG in Assassin's Creed Shadows. And you know, ever since Ubisoft went to the RPG route, you know, some of the early sauce of the earlier trilogy games has gone out the window. You know, when you compare to the level design of the original trilogy, or maybe the stealth sections of the original trilogy, the RPG games just didn't really match up to in that regard. You know, and we had you know, just such a bloated experience with Valhalla. I think AC Valhalla just left a very sour taste in a lot of gamers' minds, of the fact that like, Ubisoft is just obsessed with this idea of creating a bloated single-player game, and you get sprinkled in microtransactions that try to make it seem like an MMO experience when it's just really a single-player game. And they're just honestly, like, out of their minds, bro. Like, they're just like thinking that, oh, let's create a bloated single-player game, and let's make these forever experiences so we can give you guys drip feed content down the line. Like, that's just an absolute asinine business practice. And you know, I'm just you know, very disgusted by that business practice. But anyways, in Assassin's Creed Shadows, it looks like, you know, they are, you know, in a sense trying to make it more streamlined by making it a bit more condensed in this open world experience. You know, I'm not gonna lie, guys, when I was playing this for the first couple of hours, I did feel a bit overwhelmed with the game. You know, the XP was a little bit overtuned. It was difficult to level up as well, so I was a little bit concerned with that. But you know, the more and more I play, you know, I'm starting to realize that this is definitely a condensed version of the past RPG bloatedness that happened with Valhalla and Odyssey. You know, I just 100%ed this small region over here, and it only took me about 15 to 16 hours, so it's not that big, guys. If you want to, you know, 100% the whole map, I believe it takes about around 60 hours to do, so it's not that much, you know, bloat compared to the older games here. Alright, guys, so let's talk about the gameplay loop. You know, how satisfying is this gameplay loop here? We all know that the RPG games can get a little bit repetitive in a sense, so did they nail it this time around? So I would say that in the beginning of the first few hours, you're definitely gonna feel a little bit burnt out with the repetitiveness. But you know, I do like the new additions that they have this time around. So how they have it set up is that they do have, you know, big castles set up around the map of the region, and usually in these castles you do find this legendary chest in that castle. And so how it works is that you're required to meet a checklist. So it might ask you to eliminate this certain amount of samurai daishu guards, and once you do eliminate all those guards, you are rewarded with that sweet loot at the very top of the castle. You know, usually you're rewarded with a pretty dope weapon or a legendary armor set. So it's definitely worth your time to do these big castles there. And so aside from that, they do have some interesting side objectives with the Kujikuri meditation zones. And if you do go into these Kujikuri locations, What happens is that it gives you a backstory of Naoe's character, and it shows you a brief background of what happened before the start of the game. So this was pretty interesting to see, Naoe's backstory there, and I do like the production quality of those backstory sections. So if you guys are looking for more story, definitely do those Kujikuri meditation zones. It's definitely worth your time. So other than that, I'm really enjoying the combat here. It's very reminiscent of maybe kind of like a similar vibe to Ninja Gaiden. It's kind of like Ninja Gaiden Light with less variety in the moves and the combat. I just really enjoy attacking with Naoe. She's very responsive with her attacks, and overall the combat design is just very clean. I like the system that they have here. I'm very glad that they moved away from the whole energy system that they had before. It kind of seemed a bit Souls-like before in Valhalla. So over here, it's just a very nice change of pace. It's it's very responsive when you use your tools in the combat, and this time around they made a big emphasis on the gore. And when you're slicing up these enemies, you actually see the blood spatter on the floors and on the walls as well. So it's pretty cool to see gore here, and when you do that execution, you're definitely going to see a lot of blood splatter on the walls too. So it's definitely a good addition to this game, and it's very reminiscent of Ninja Gaiden. Alright, so overall guys, I'm very much enjoying my time with this Assassin's Creed. It's a return to form from the original franchise. By the way, I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing the return to form since the Dragon Age reviews, but yo, listen, this is definitely a return to form, man. Y'all better not dog me on that, but yeah, this is a return to form from the original AC trilogy. I'm excited to see where the story goes. It started off with a very strong opening, and I'm hearing that the story overall doesn't get that good until you reach the final act of the game. So hoping it gets better later on. But yeah, I'm enjoying my time with this game. It definitely has some promise. So let me know your guys' thoughts on the game. Has it exceeded your expectations? I'm very curious to hear that, and leave your comments down below. This is your boy Theslykrow. Catch you on the next one, man. Peace.